The hum of machinery and the whir of alarm systems filled the air as General Elena Hartfield stood before the holographic display of Earth's defenses. A grim look etched across her face. She watched as Starthian forces systematically dismantled the human fleet. Their ships were sleek and advanced, capable of warp speed travel, and armed with weapons that tore through human armor like paper. The last of Earth's forces were trapped in the final defense lines, their ships outgunned, and their ammunition nearly depleted. Hartfield's fingers gripped the edges of the console as she stared at the screen. The once vibrant human colonies, now reduced to burning embers, painted a dire picture. Her strategic mind, known for its sharpness and precision, could find no more moves to make. She had already ordered countless counterattacks, some successful, but never enough to change the tide of battle. The Xarthians, relentless and efficient, had broken every human defense, pushing their way closer to Earth. "We can't hold out much longer, General," Commander Lucas Marlowe said, his voice a mixture of defeat and determination as he stood next to her. "Our ships are going down, one by one. They're too powerful." "Tell me something I don't know," Hartfield snapped, her voice cold. But inside, she felt a weight she couldn't shake. The human race had fought with everything they had. And now, it looked like all would be lost. Their weaponry, their strategies, none of it was enough. She felt the sharp sting of failure in her chest. A final report buzzed through the communication system, an encrypted transmission from Earth's High Command. The voice on the other end was distant, weary, yet resolute. "General Hartfield, you are authorized to initiate Project Titan. You are Earth's last hope." Hartfield's brow furrowed. "Project Titan," she echoed. She hadn't heard of it in years. It was a secret program, developed in the early days of the war, before Earth realized the full scale of the Xarthian threat. It was humanity's last line of defense, but the project had been shrouded in mystery, and she knew very little about it. There was no time to waste, but it felt like a gamble. "Do you think we can rely on this?" she asked, her voice steady, though doubt lingered. Marlowe gave her a long look before responding. "We have no choice. The enemy's closing in. If this is the last card we have to play, we have to play it." With a heavy heart, General Hartfield gave the order. The countdown began. At the edge of the battlefield, hidden deep within one of Earth's most classified military facilities, the Project Titan soldiers would be deployed. If this failed, Earth would fall, and the Xarthians would reign supreme. The corridors of the underground military complex were eerily silent as General Hartfield walked with purpose, flanked by her most trusted officers. She could feel the weight of history in every step, the fate of humanity pressing down on her. A series of heavy metal doors opened with a hiss, revealing a stark, sterile laboratory. Inside, rows of humanoid figures stood motionless, their forms obscured by the shadows of advanced machinery. "Are these the Titans?" Commander Marlowe asked, his voice low with awe. Hartfield nodded. "They are the product of years of research and experimentation. But these soldiers are more than just enhanced humans. They're the pinnacle of what we've been able to achieve. They're stronger, faster, and more intelligent than any soldier we've ever known. They're not ordinary soldiers. They're something else." As the lights flickered on, the room revealed the Titans, each standing at attention. They wore sleek, form-fitting armor, and their eyes glowed faintly with an unnatural intensity. They were human, but not. Each one had undergone extensive physical and genetic modifications, including advanced neural interfaces, cybernetic enhancements, and specialized augmentations designed to make them formidable in every battlefield condition. "These soldiers are unlike any force we've ever known," Hartfield continued, her voice filled with a mixture of pride and unease. "But they're untested in real combat. They've been trained for this moment, but we have no idea if they can withstand what's coming." The lead Titan, a tall figure with dark hair and striking, sharp features, stepped forward. His eyes locked with Hartfield's, his expression emotionless but focused. "We're ready, General," the Titan said, his voice calm but powerful. "Give us the order." Hartfield studied him carefully. His eyes, unmistakably human, held a kind of quiet resolve that resonated deep within her. They had no choice now. There was no turning back. If the Titans could accomplish what no one else could, they were Earth's final hope. "The war is almost lost," Hartfield said, her voice filled with quiet determination. "This is our last chance. If you succeed, you may be the last thing standing between humanity and total annihilation." The Titan nodded. "We understand." A heavy silence filled the room as Hartfield turned to her officers, her fingers brushing the surface of a nearby control panel. "Initiate the deployment. Let's hope the gamble pays off." With that, the Titans were activated, and the mission began. The war for Earth was about to enter a new chapter, one that no one had foreseen. The moment the deployment order was given, the air in the command center seemed to thicken with tension. General Hartfield stood, watching as the holographic projections of the battlefield flickered to life in front of her. Her heart raced as she observed the growing cluster of Xarthian warships advancing toward Earth. The aliens were relentless, their firepower devastating. But now, the Titans were on their way to change everything. In the war room, the sound of rapid footsteps echoed as the first group of Titans entered the command center. There were 6 of them in this initial wave. They were tall, muscular figures, their enhanced bodies moving with precision and purpose. Their armor gleamed with sleek, black surfaces, and the hum of their internal systems could be faintly heard as they stepped onto the floor. Their faces, though human, held an otherworldly intensity, the result of their modifications. It was clear, these soldiers were no longer mere men. The Titans stood at attention, eyes trained on General Hartfield. The leader of the unit, a man named Lieutenant Kale, stepped forward, his sharp features casting a cold yet focused expression. His eyes glowed faintly with the light of his neural enhancements. "General Hartfield, we are ready," Kale said, his voice calm yet authoritative. There was no hesitation, no fear in his tone. He was certain of one thing: they were prepared to fight. Hartfield regarded him carefully, her fingers twitching nervously at her side. She had never seen warriors like these before, machines of destruction, created for one purpose: to save humanity from extinction. She only hoped they could live up to the hype. "I'm activating the comms to your units," Hartfield said, her voice steady despite the mounting pressure. "Remember your objective. Push the Xarthians back. Hold the line until reinforcements arrive." Kale nodded without speaking, turning to his team. The other Titans stood in formation, their bodies exuding a readiness for battle. Each one was a product of years of covered experimentation, armed with both cutting-edge weaponry and biological enhancements that would allow them to push the boundaries of human strength and intellect. They were humanity's greatest hope, but no one knew if even they could overcome the might of the Xarthians. The communication systems crackled to life as Kale addressed his team. "This is it. Our mission is clear. We fight, or we die. We hold nothing back." The Titans marched out of the command center, their steps echoing through the sterile corridors, their movements synchronized like a well-oiled machine. As they made their way to the transport docks, the weight of the moment settled in. Outside, in the blackness of space, the Xarthian fleet loomed closer. The final battle for Earth had begun. The transport shuttles were ready, each one brimming with more Titans, all prepared for the inevitable. As Kale and his team boarded their shuttle, the rest of the human forces were already mobilizing, preparing to support the elite warriors as best as they could. But everyone knew the truth. The fate of the planet now rested on the shoulders of the Titans. As the shuttles launched into space, the first wave of Titans faced the overwhelming Xarthian force. The sheer size of the alien ships made the human fleet appear like ants in comparison, but the Titans were undeterred. They moved in perfect formation, their every move calculated, designed for maximum impact. On the surface of Earth, the Xarthian ground forces had already begun to infiltrate the human cities, decimating everything in their path. But the moment the first Titan landed on the battlefield, the aliens paused. They had never faced anything like this before. A single Titan, moving with the swiftness of a predator, tore through alien lines. His arm blazed with energy as he struck down a heavily armored Xarthian soldier with one blow. Within moments, the Titans had breached the outer Xarthian defenses, catching the invaders off guard. But this was just the beginning. More Titans followed, and the battle escalated, with every passing moment seeing humanity's chance for survival growing stronger. These soldiers were the spark the human forces needed to ignite a fire that could burn through the Xarthian invasion. As the war for Earth raged, one thing became clear. The humans had something the Xarthians had never expected, a force that could not be stopped. The Titans were here, and their victory would change the course of the war forever. The Titans' first appearance on the battlefield was nothing short of devastating. As they moved through the chaos, their enhanced abilities allowed them to carve through the Xarthian forces with surgical precision. Human soldiers, who had been retreating in fear just moments before, now found a renewed sense of courage as they watched the Titans take down the invaders. Lieutenant Kell, at the forefront of the charge, moved with a fluidity that seemed almost impossible for a human. His augmented strength allowed him to leap over obstacles and crush alien war machines beneath his boot. His weapon, a plasma-infused blade, cut through the Xarthians' advanced armor like butter. With every strike, the aliens faltered. Their once unimaginable superiority began to wane in the face of these new human warriors. As Kell and his team pushed forward, they left a trail of destruction in their wake. The Xarthian ground forces, initially confident in their technological dominance, were forced to adapt quickly. They had not anticipated the raw power, the unpredictability of the Titans. Xarthian drones, designed for precision strikes, found themselves dodging Titan soldiers who moved faster than their systems could track. Kell's team was untouchable, faster than bullets, smarter than the most advanced algorithms the aliens had deployed. They became a blur of destruction, a terrifying force that the invaders could not counter. Back at the Human Command Center, General Hartfield watched the live feeds of the battle with a mix of awe and disbelief. The Xarthian forces were faltering. For the first time since the war began, she allowed herself a moment of hope. The tide was turning, slowly but steadily, but she knew better than to think the battle was won. This was only the beginning, and the Xarthians wouldn't simply roll over. They would respond with all their fury. "General, the Xarthians are regrouping," Commander Marlowe reported, his voice tense. "They're deploying their elite shock units. The Titans are doing well, but they'll need support." Hartfield nodded grimly. "Prepare the reserves. Get everything we can to the front lines. The Titans can't do this alone." As the Titans continued their advance, they encountered the Xarthian shock units. These were not just soldiers. They were genetically engineered warriors, stronger and more resilient than any human could be. They wore heavier armor and wielded weapons that could obliterate a standard human soldier in seconds. But the Titans were not standard soldiers. They had been designed specifically to counter threats like this. The battle that ensued was brutal. The shock units and the Titans collided in a fury of energy blasts and physical combat. Kale faced off with the leader of the Xarthian shock troops, a towering figure known as Garzor, whose armor was reinforced with a unique energy field. The two exchanged blows, their fists creating shockwaves that sent debris flying across the battlefield. Kale moved with a fluidity that seemed almost supernatural, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to dodge Garzor's attacks while delivering strikes that seemed to penetrate even the aliens' reinforced armor. The battle between them was fierce, but Kel's precision and adaptability soon gave him the upper hand. With a final, calculated strike, Kale pierced the alien's armor, sending Garzor to the ground in a cloud of sparks. The rest of the Xarthian shock troops, seeing their leader fall, hesitated for just a moment, long enough for the other Titans to tear through their lines. Despite the chaos and destruction surrounding them, the Titans remained a beacon of hope. Their sheer power and tactics were proving to be the turning point in the battle. As they pushed deeper into the enemy's territory, the Xarthians were forced to pull back, regrouping and recalibrating their strategies. The human forces, though battered and weakened, found themselves gaining ground. "Keep moving," Kale commanded, his voice steady despite the intensity of the battle. "The war is far from over, but we're not losing today." The Titans advanced, their weapons glowing with energy, and humanity's last hope began to take form. With each victory, the humans' chances grew. The Titans were no longer just soldiers. They were the unstoppable force that might finally bring an end to the alien invasion. The Xarthians were not a race accustomed to defeat. The initial shock of the Titans' arrival had stunned them, but they quickly regrouped. Across the alien fleet, a new order was issued, one that recognized the human threat for the first time. The Xarthians were formidable, but they had underestimated humanity's resilience, especially now with the rise of the Titans. Anger spread like wildfire through the ranks of the alien commanders. They would not allow a handful of enhanced humans to disrupt their conquest of Earth. Within hours of the Titans' first victories, the Xarthians unveiled their retaliation. The Krelix units, elite warriors bred specifically to battle the Titans. These alien beings, genetically engineered with a blend of brute strength and enhanced combat abilities, were designed to neutralize threats like the human super soldiers. Unlike the earlier shock units, the Krelix were faster, stronger, and more intelligent. Their bodies were covered in thick, armored exoskeletons capable of absorbing heavy artillery. They were lethal, unyielding, and designed with one purpose: to destroy the Titans. The first encounter between the Titans and the Krelix was nothing short of explosive. On the scorched plains of the former city of New York, the two forces met head-on. The Titans, though exceptional in their combat skills, were now facing an enemy that matched them in every respect. Lieutenant Kale and his team moved into position, their enhanced senses alert to the changes in the air. They knew the Krelix would be coming, and they were ready. As Kale advanced with his unit, a sudden roar split the air. The Krelix charged, their massive forms cutting through the smoke and ruins of the battlefield. The Titans wasted no time, unleashing their full might in a flurry of energy blasts and strikes. But the Krelix were quick to adapt, using their superior armor and agility to dodge the blasts and retaliate with devastating power. One of the Titans, Sergeant Rhea, attempted to strike a Krelix head-on with a plasma sword, but the alien warrior countered with an energy shield, sending Rhea sprawling to the ground with a single punch. Cal's eyes narrowed as he assessed the situation. The Krelix were formidable, but they weren't invincible. They were powerful, but they had weaknesses. The Titans' greatest strength lay in their ability to adapt, to learn on the fly and exploit any gap in their opponent's defense. As Cal engaged another Krelix, he noticed something. Despite their impressive offensive capabilities, the Krelix relied heavily on their brute strength and armor. They lacked the speed and flexibility that made the Titans so unpredictable. "Form up," Kale barked to his team, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Don't let them dictate the pace. We control this fight." The Titans shifted their tactics. Instead of meeting the Krelix head-on, they began to use their enhanced speed and coordination to outmaneuver them. They darted in and out of the fray, striking with precision before the Krelix could even react. Kale, in particular, used his superior agility to his advantage, slipping past a Krelix warrior's heavy armor and delivering a lethal blow to its exposed side. The alien crumpled, its massive form crashing to the ground with a deafening thud. But the Krelix were relentless. For every Titan they felled, two more emerged from the fray. The Xarthians were adapting quickly, countering the Titans' attacks with increasing ferocity. The battle was no longer one-sided. It was a clash of two unstoppable forces, each determined to win at any cost. General Hartfield, watching from her command post, could feel the shift in the tide. The human forces were holding their own, but the Krelix were an unforeseen challenge, one that threatened to turn the battle in favor of the aliens. She knew they couldn't afford to be complacent. "Commander Marlowe," she said, her voice calm but urgent, "prepare reinforcements. We need to hit the Krelix hard, or this will spiral out of control. We can't let the Titans do this alone." The human resistance was at a crossroads. With the Xarthian retaliation in full force, the fate of Earth now hinged on whether the Titans could overcome this new challenge, or if they too would fall to the unrelenting power of the Krelix. The battle was escalating to heights no one had anticipated. The Xarthians were no longer simply an invading force. They were a determined enemy, prepared to fight until the very end. The battle between the Titans and the Krelix raged on, the landscape a war-torn wasteland. Each clash was a violent symphony of destruction, where the Titans' precision and speed met the raw power and resilience of the Krelix. Lieutenant Kale and his team fought tirelessly, but the sheer numbers of the alien warriors began to wear them down. The Krelix were relentless, their strength and defensive capabilities forcing the Titans into a war of attrition they hadn't expected. Despite the Titans' superior combat skills, the Krelix were proving to be an even match. The Titans, while faster and more agile, had only so much energy to expend before fatigue began to set in. They had never faced enemies who could endure so much. The alien warriors shrugged off blows that would have brought down a human in seconds, their armored exoskeletons making them nearly invulnerable. For every Krelix the Titans brought down, another took its place, relentless in their pursuit. General Hartfield watched the battle unfold from the command center, her expression tight with concern. She had sent every available unit to reinforce the Titans, but it was clear that the balance was shifting. The human forces were struggling to hold their ground, and the Krelix were pressing in harder than ever. The once hopeful surge in momentum that the Titans had brought was beginning to falter. "General, we've got a problem." Commander Marlowe's voice crackled over the comms. "The Krelix have initiated a new formation. They're regrouping in the central quadrant, preparing for a coordinated assault. If they break through, we lose everything." Hartfield's mind raced. She knew that the only chance for Earth now lay in pushing back the Krelix. The Titans had given humanity a fighting chance, but this was no longer just a battle of strength. It was a battle of endurance, of sheer willpower. "Activate the backup protocols," she ordered, her voice steady despite the weight of the situation. "We need to hit them from all sides. I want every ship in range to launch a diversionary strike. We can't give them any room to maneuver." As the backup protocols were set into motion, Hartfield turned her attention back to the battlefield. The Titans were fighting with everything they had, but it was clear they couldn't do it alone. Earth's forces had to be more than just support. They needed to be a part of this final push. On the ground, Kale surveyed the battlefield, his mind calculating their next move. His armor was scorched, his body bruised, but his resolve remained unbroken. The Krelix were starting to form up in an aggressive formation, their lines tightening as they prepared to launch a concentrated assault. Kel could feel the pressure building. Their time was running out. "Rhea, cover me," Kale ordered, his voice a commanding force amidst the chaos. "We need to hit them before they launch that strike." Sergeant Rhea, still recovering from her earlier encounter with the Krelix, nodded and moved into position. With a single fluid motion, she activated her jet thrusters, launching herself into the air toward a group of Krelix warriors. As she soared, her plasma rifle in hand, Kale sprinted toward the central unit of the alien formation. The Krelix were formidable, but they weren't invincible. Kale knew that if they could break their formation, they would be able to disrupt their coordination and take advantage of the confusion. He charged, his weapon raised and glowing with energy, and struck the first Krelix in his path. The impact sent the alien flying, but Kale didn't stop. His mission was clear: disrupt, destabilize, and destroy. The rest of the Titans followed Kal's lead, moving with precision as they began to tear through the Krelix formation. Rhea provided cover fire from above, her plasma blasts lighting up the darkened sky. For the first time since the battle began, the Titans had the upper hand. Back in the command center, Hartfield watched as the Krelix lines faltered. She could feel a surge of hope, but she knew they weren't done yet. The real battle had only just begun. "Keep pushing," she shouted, rallying her forces. "We can win this, but we have to finish it now." The human forces, inspired by the Titans' resilience, fought with renewed vigor. The Krelix, once an unstoppable force, were now scrambling to regain control. With each Titan strike, the alien formation shattered further. The momentum had shifted. The Titans had proven themselves to be the unrelenting force that humanity needed. The Xarthians were starting to falter. The battle for Earth was far from over, but the turning tide was undeniable. The momentum had finally shifted. The Titans' resilience, combined with the human force's relentless attacks, had begun to break the Xarthian resolve. The Krelix, once a seemingly unstoppable force, were faltering under the pressure. Kale and his team had managed to destabilize their formation, and now the Krelix were scrambling to regroup. But it was too late. The Titans had found their opening. "Push forward." Cal's voice rang through the comms as he and his team moved with lethal precision. The once unified Xarthian line was now a mess of confused and scattered soldiers, each one struggling to adjust to the chaos the Titans had unleashed. They had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. The ground beneath them trembled as the last remnants of the Krelix forces attempted a desperate counterattack. But the Titans were already ahead, exploiting the gaps in the alien defenses. Kale and Sergeant Rhea, working in perfect synchronization, tore through the remaining Krelix soldiers with expert efficiency. The battlefield was a blur of destruction and sparks, but the Titans were the eye of the storm, unstoppable, unyielding. On the command center's monitors, General Hartfield watched with growing anticipation. The Xarthians, though formidable, had not accounted for the human will to survive. She had seen the progress, the way her soldiers had rallied under the Titans' leadership, and now the final push seemed imminent. "Status report," she barked, her voice sharp but filled with hope. "General, the Krelix are retreating," Commander Marlowe responded, his voice strained with both exhaustion and relief. "We've managed to cut off their reinforcements. The enemy is disorganized. This is our chance to end it." Hartfield's eyes flashed with determination. The time had come for the final strike. The Titans had earned their place as humanity's last line of defense, and now they would be the ones to break the Xarthians once and for all. "Get everything we've got ready to deploy. I want a full-scale assault on their command ship. This ends today," Hartfield ordered. Meanwhile, Cal's team continued their relentless assault on the Xarthian forces. The ground was littered with the debris of broken alien armor and wreckage. The sky was filled with the streaking lights of plasma fire and the hum of Titan's weapons. They were pushing the enemy back, but Cal knew that the Xarthians had one final weapon in reserve, their command ship, a massive, heavily fortified vessel hovering high above the battlefield. It was the heart of the Xarthian army, and without it, the invasion would collapse. Cal's team had already achieved a major victory, but they couldn't stop until the command ship was taken out. It was time for the final strike. "Cal, we've got your back," Rhea's voice crackled over the comms. "But we're not getting any younger. We need to finish this now." Cal looked around him at the devastation. The Xarthians were broken, but their leadership remained intact. The command ship had to fall. We take the fight to their front door. It's all or nothing now. The Titans gathered, their weapons primed and ready. With the human forces providing cover fire and launching diversionary tactics, the Titans began their assault on the Xarthian command ship. They moved with singular purpose, cutting through the remnants of the alien army as they advanced toward their target. Cal led the charge, his eyes locked onto the massive warship in the distance. The air crackled with tension as the Titans breached the defenses around the command ship, making their way up the towering structure. The ship's cannons fired in a futile attempt to stop them, but the Titans were relentless. One by one, they tore through the alien defenses, reaching the heart of the Xarthian ship. Inside, the Xarthian commander, a towering figure named Supreme Overlord Vrax, stood in his command center, glaring at the approaching threat. The invaders had not anticipated this level of resistance. They had believed that Earth was theirs for the taking. Now, Vrax had no choice but to face the fury of humanity head-on. The battle inside the command ship was unlike anything Cal had experienced before. The alien soldiers were fierce, but they were no match for the Titans. Cal moved with a deadly precision, his weapon slicing through alien armor as if it were paper. He and his team pushed forward, determined to reach the command center and end this war once and for all. Vrax! Cal shouted as they reached the heart of the command ship, his voice a defiant roar. This ends now. The final showdown was upon them. The battle for Earth had reached its ultimate climax, and the fate of humanity rested in the hands of the Titans. With one final push, they would either win the war or lose everything. Inside the heart of the Xarthian command ship, the air crackled with tension. Supreme Overlord Vrax stood before his command console, watching as the Titans tore through his defenses like a force of nature. His many eyes burned with fury and disbelief. He had conquered countless worlds, but this was different. The humans had brought something unexpected: their will to survive, their unrelenting fight to preserve their home. Activate the final defense grid. Vrax ordered, his voice deep and resonant, vibrating with authority. He slammed his fist on the console, the command triggering a chain of events that would change the tide of the battle. This planet shall be ours, no matter the cost. With his command, massive energy shields enveloped the core of the command ship, while automated turrets and heavy plasma cannons activated, sending waves of deadly fire toward the advancing Titans. The room trembled with the force of explosions, and Cal's team was forced to take cover. "Stay focused," Cal shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We can't stop now. We push forward, no matter what." Rhea, her armor scorched and her weapons nearly depleted, nodded grimly. She had never encountered such fierce resistance. The Xarthians were desperate, but so were they. The fate of Earth rested on the destruction of the ship and the death of Vrax. The Titans regrouped, moving as a unit to evade the fire from the ship's automated defenses. Their armor shimmered under the barrage of plasma, but their enhancements allowed them to adapt, moving with an uncanny speed. Cal's mind raced, calculating their next move. They couldn't keep dodging forever. They needed to get to the control room. "We take the main core," Cal ordered. "Once we're there, we disable the shields. Rhea, you cover us." Rhea moved into position, setting her plasma rifle to maximum power and firing in short, controlled bursts, taking down enemy soldiers with deadly accuracy. Meanwhile, Cal and the rest of the Titans pushed forward, their enhanced bodies absorbing the shock from the blasts as they barreled through the ship's defenses. The closer they got to the core, the more intense the resistance became. The air felt thicker, as if every step forward was a battle in itself. When they finally reached the central core of the ship, they were met with an unexpected sight. Vrax stood before them, his towering frame a silhouette against the glowing energy field that protected the command center. His face, a terrifying mask of alien rage, glowed as the ship's power surged behind him. "You are too late, humans," Vrax sneered, his voice echoing through the chamber. "This planet is already mine. Your resistance is futile." Cal's heart pounded, his every instinct screaming that the time had come. "We're not done yet," he replied coldly, raising his weapon. "This ends today." With a ferocious battle cry, the Titans charge, engaging Vrax and his remaining elite guards. The battle was vicious, each blow from Vrax shaking the very foundation of the ship. His strength was immense, his combat style ruthless, but the Titans were unlike any force he had faced before. They were relentless, tireless, and they would not back down. Vrax swung a massive energy blade, but Kale was faster. In a blur of motion, Kale dodged and countered, landing a powerful strike that cracked Vrax's energy shield. The alien overlord staggered back, snarling in anger. The fight became a blur of brutal strikes, energy blasts, and the sound of metal clashing against metal. Each Titan fought with everything they had, knowing that failure would mean the destruction of everything they had fought to protect. With each passing second, the ship's core began to destabilize, the countdown to destruction ticking away. The energy shield around Vrax flickered, and Kale saw his opening. He dove forward, his enhanced speed carrying him through the air. And with one final, calculated blow, he pierced the heart of Vrax's defenses. The Supreme Overlord let out a guttural roar as his body crumpled to the floor, and with him, the last of the Xarthian resistance. For a moment, there was silence. Then the core of the ship began to shake violently. The countdown was nearly complete. Kale and his team had done it. They had struck down the Xarthian Overlord and destroyed the heart of their invasion. But there was no time to celebrate. The ship was going down. "We're out of time," Kale shouted. "Everyone, move now." The Titans raced toward the exit, but the ship's destruction had already begun. Explosions ripped through the corridors, sending them tumbling toward the escape pods. With seconds to spare, they made it to the shuttle bay, where the remaining human forces were already evacuating. As the Titans boarded the final escape shuttle, Kale looked back at the burning remains of the Xarthian command ship. Earth had been saved, but the war had come at a great cost. The battle for survival was over, but the scars of war would remain for generations to come. With the last of the human soldiers aboard, the shuttle launched into the sky, leaving behind the wreckage of a battle that would define humanity's future. The Titans had won, and Earth had been saved. But at what price? The final push had been successful, but the true cost of this victory would be felt for years to come.